The teams that log into the platform and make it a team habit every day are growing 3 times faster than their peers. We know that. It sounds so simple.
Welcome to Tip Top Grow Up Your Business with Metronomics. Join me, Shannon Byrne-Susko, and Metronomics certified coach, Jed Roberts.
We'll be talking to business thought leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business team coaches who have all taken the journey to grow up their businesses to their tip top.
We'll be sharing strategies, systems, stories, on how you can grow your company up at the speed you want.
If you're searching for your path to the tip top and feel your time is running out, then this podcast is for you. So today we've got a real treat for you. We've got a little bit of a surprise. We've got both Shannon Susko and Ian Judson in the room today. So in-person podcast, the first one in the series. This will be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, you're in the room too.
I'm in the room too.
It's all 3 of us in the room. Sounded like we are just in the room, but you're in the room too.
I'm in the room too.
Well, should we kick off with a little round of introductions of each? Who wants to start? Ian, you want to?
Yeah. So flew down from Brisbane just before. We're in Sydney at the moment, which is a lot of fun. Got a Coach Connect day tomorrow. So I've been a Metronomics coach for 5 years, I think.
5 years.
5 years. Been a great journey. So been coaching a number of small to mid-level businesses as part of that journey. And so it's been a good experience from my point of view.
Yeah, awesome. How about you?
And like Ian, I've been a Metronomics coach for 5 years, or it's five and a half now, Ian. We're clocked over to the half year as well.
We're going to start counting like young kids.
We count like months, yeah. I've been coaching for 10 years, also with Ian in a previous organization. Love what I do. I love helping CEOs and leadership teams get the most from their business and their lives.
Awesome. Well, as well, I've been a Metronomics coach since the beginning, which is a lot longer than 5.5 years. But, I think the great news is been coaching 6 companies since 2012. 6 companies. I always keep 6 companies in my portfolio of small, medium, and large organizations. And that's what keeps us really sharp, all of us, is growing with the Metronomics growth system is continuing to evolve with our clients. So let's talk about a little general question around we're all coaching teams. We're all coaching teams that want to grow, and we're all coaching them through the different growth stages. What drew you to this particular system? You mentioned you both worked with other systems. What in particular drew you to this system, and what's made it different from others you've used in the past? Jed, I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah, I think for me, what drew me to Metronomics and the Three-HAG way at the time when it first started was it wasn't just a bunch of tools. It wasn't just a bunch of tools that you picked out and used with your clients. So, whenever you felt that was the time, this was actually a system that brought the tools together in a prescriptive way, in a way where the next logical step is the next logical step. So it's not just a bunch of tools, it's a set of awesome tools, but it's also got the system and the framework that bring them together, which is the difference for me. That's the thing that makes it so much more than what I was using before.
Yeah. Thinking about it, it's the progression. One round of a tool builds on the next round, that builds on the next round. How does that, from a coaching perspective, and then talk a little bit about from a client perspective, what have been some of the impact you've seen?
I think the big impact from myself is knowing what's coming next, always knowing where we're going to go next. So I say to my clients, look, I know exactly what we're going to be doing in 6 months' time. I know exactly what we're going to be doing in 12 months' time. And it gives them the reassurance that there's actually a progression, as you say. They know that someone is saying, okay, when we meet next, this is what we're going to be doing. Here's your preparation. This is what you need to be ready for.
Yeah.
And whereas when I was coaching before, it was pretty much like, you rock up on the day, see where the issue is, and then go and select a tool from the toolbox and hoping it's going to help you get to an outcome.
Yeah.
And it didn't always.
Yeah. Ian, how about you? What drew you to this particular system? And then what's made it different for both for you as a coach and results for your clients?
Yeah, I think, thinking about it, there's probably three things that drew me to the system itself. The first one is it's built on experience rather than just academic thought.
Yes.
It's a system that I knew you adopted in your own businesses. And I think the strength of the toolkit that we've seen, it's very adaptable into a live business environment rather than just being something that is just an academic sort of thought. It's a complete system.
Yeah.
And so seeing that play out in your businesses and then also see it play out in other clients' businesses really validated for me the system as opposed to maybe other options.
Yeah.
The second thing for me was really that strategy piece. That to me, a lot of the other systems had neglected the creation of the strategy and the process of actually how to go about it. So for me, one of the appeals of the system was that you could lock in this process of how to develop a strategy.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing then that it led to for me was the team dynamic. So it wasn't just a CEO toolkit or just for, a one executive. It was really just how do we coach this out across the team? Yeah. And so for me, it was really those three things, I guess, as main highlights as to why I chose this particular system.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think this system chose me out of pure desperation is where I'm going to answer that question. But it actually goes back to Ian, what you talked about is it was a desperation to take a complex strategy and make it clear and simple so that we as a team could formulate the strategy, we could build the strategy. And as a coach, when we're working, as you know, with companies and we're building their strategy, it builds confidence in how we're working with that company. And in turn, it builds confidence in how they're, feeling about it and seeing their strategy and moving it forward. The system, is the other piece that I was definitely looking for as a CEO, but also as a coach, which is the how. That systematic progressional build and how to, make sure, as you said, Jed, you show up at a meeting. We can plan 3 quarters ahead because we can see that far within the system. And it's very different than maybe some of even my early coaches coming in and sort of, picking the problem of the day. But it wasn't really getting us to where we needed it to go. Okay, well, good to get some background, good to understand, how we got here and thinking about the companies that we coach and the different growth phases they're in. So we all know, but not everyone knows that there's 3 growth phases that every company goes through. Foundation growth phase, the momentum growth phase, and the compounding growth phase. Let's talk today around the foundation growth phase to the momentum growth phase, and we'll explain a little bit about it as we go so listeners can understand that. But, the foundation phase is where every journey starts. And when we meet companies, it doesn't always mean they're in the foundation growth phase. They could be in the momentum growth phase. But let's talk about the most common challenges you see when a team first begins implementing Metronomics. Jed, you want to start?
Yeah, I think every single client I work with is always exactly the same. They haven't got a cohesive leadership team. There's a reason why they picked up the phone and called for coaching assistance, for a coach guide or whatever we want to call it, and this isn't a problem they necessarily know they have. They know they've got a problem, but they don't know they have it. And when you start introducing the concept of cohesive team and taking them through some of the exercises, like the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and working together to build up team cohesion, then things just start slotting into place a lot faster. But it's really subtle. It's a really subtle approach. And I've had CEOs come to me and after about 6 months saying, "Oh, when are we going to start working on the cohesive system?" It's like, well, we did that at 9:30 on the first day of the kickoff. So it's subtle. It's subtle. We have been, yeah. But because they haven't necessarily seen it as a problem, they haven't gone looking for a solution, and it suddenly starts revealing itself. And if you're in a team where they're mostly A players and B players, then it happens very, very quickly. If you're in a team that have got some C players, the C players start standing up really, really quickly. Now, very, very quickly, it becomes apparent that they're not right for the business. They're not right for the team. And they normally eject within the first 6 to 9 months. And sometimes you've got to force that. And sometimes, it's because they don't want to go, but you've got to rip that Band-Aid off so that the rest of the team has a chance to excel.
Yeah.
Because they won't excel if there's a C player or more than one C player in the team.
Ian, pick up on that. We know that one of the most common challenges that holds a team in the foundation growth phase, meaning they're just not getting the momentum that they're looking for. What other challenges does a team see that you've seen when a company's in the foundation growth phase?
It definitely the cohesiveness, I guess, from a definitional point of view, can be that the people on the team are all at different stages, either educationally or whatever. So part of that cohesion is to try to get them in a similar spot or an understanding of where that spot needs to be in order for them to move forward together. One of the common complaints we get, and Jed, I don't know if you're sort of referring to this a little bit, is like the CEO wants to go at 100 miles an hour. But the team can only go as quickly as the slowest team member. And there's a catch-up phase that needs to occur. So foundation has as an inherent element like a period where we just got to get people to that same level of understanding. They might know things a little bit deeper on a particular topic, but we really just need to get everyone sort of aligned up a little bit more as to where are we, where do we want to go? And the pathway is a little bit of a cohesion around this is the way that we're going to get there. And if we can get to that level, then that team from that system point of view at least has got a chance to get beyond the foundation phase once we can get to that.
Yeah, so we're talking about people, we're talking about cohesiveness, and just a level set for the listeners. When we talk about the foundation growth phase, there's 4 key levers, right? The first being cash system working. Right. So we have to think, I want you thinking about, is your cash system working? Are you losing sleep over cash, or we've got cash in a place where we might not have forecasted it out 36 months, but we have comfort around cash. That's our cash system. Our second system that we're thinking about, the lever is around the execution system. And we see companies, they're either stuck on cash, they're stuck on execution. And what we mean by that is the execution system is not working without the leaders. And the leaders are spending too much time in the business. And part of that is, as you both nicely explained, the common challenge of having a 100% A-player leadership team. Now, and they must be cohesive, right, to both sides of that. What have you seen, or what's your experience been? And we'll talk about the last, lever that we need to pull. But what's your experience been on what kind of effort is it taking working with the CEO and the leaders in order to make those moves? It's easy for us as coaches to say, oh, need 100% A-player leadership team. And your team today is not 100%. We must remove the B or C players who cannot be A's, snap. What are the challenges you've seen, most common ones of just getting that leadership team to 100% A players? You want to start in?
Yeah, sure. So the big thing I see is reluctance to move C players on. Now, it's reluctance because they might not be aligned to the core values, but they are probably high performers from a performance point of view. So losing them will hurt the business. And a lot of CEOs just aren't prepared to take that pain. They they want to defer it because they hope it's going to fix itself, but it never does. So you've got to take the pain at some point, and you're better off doing it sooner rather than later. But that's not a message they want to hear.
No. And, we know, the sooner we can show the CEO who is on the leadership team and how they are performing and they align to the core values, allows the CEO to take action. But we know that we're all human, ourselves as coaches, the CEOs as coaches, leaders. What's the thing that holds the CEO back from taking action? What have you seen?
A lot of the time I just see the CEO not wanting to keep their team accountable. And for me, one of the key elements of what holds the team back is just this willingness to actually call out team members on, delivering on what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
And for me, teams just get stuck because there's this hesitation that they like each other and they get on well with each other. So there's a cohesion from that point of view. But the cohesion is just like from a trust point of view at a base level of, we can predict what they're going to do. But they're not actually holding the team members to a proper account, which is why I think we do quite often as coaches start off with cash and execution.
Yes.
Because we get them used to this dynamic of being accountable to some results around financial or meetings and attendance and input at the meetings. But then we got to get them to that higher level. And this is where the CEOs, where we start developing the scorecards with the key executives and then holding those key team members on the senior leadership team to account on certain aspects of their roles and the delivering the results in that roles. That's where we see the core sort of issues start to come unstuck sometimes for some teams. And that's the thing that will hold them back.
Yeah. And we know, even though many times we kick off with a new team or teams in the foundation growth phase, it doesn't hold the team back in the sense of making progress, because 100% A players aren't there. We can still make progress, as you said, on the cash system by leveraging the visibility on that and creating a score around that. Same with execution. And it just plays well into actually the visibility of who is on your team that can help you get from where you are now to where you want to go. And that drives in the next piece of this, the Three-HAG, right? The Three-HAG, even though we don't have 100% A players on our team at this point, or maybe you do, the Three-HAG is so critical in order to, I would say, enable the foundation growth phase, because we get to map it out. What has your experience been when a company's in the foundation growth phase and we're looking, from the gutting out process all the way through to we've got it mapped? What are some of the challenges you see there, and what's the best way to guide teams through it?
Yeah, so I think from a team dynamic point of view, it's easy to focus on the where we are now. And we get stuck a little bit in focusing on the behaviours of what's going on and the issues and fighting the fires with the teams at that level. But we need the Three-HAG. We need something to pull the team through that phase and also give them an aspiration of where they can be. And so I think that's part of the secret of why we need a Three-HAG as an important piece of this whole process, because it's that sort of element of pushing the team beyond its own sort of issues to like pulling it towards a better future.
Yeah. What would you add?
Oh, look, that made me smile, because I think it was Barb. She came up with a turn in Vancouver, where the Three-HAG should be pulled from the B-HAG and not pushed from the One-HAG.
Yeah.
And when she said that, it was like that is just beautiful. That just says it absolutely 100% right.
Yeah.
It is pulled from the B-HAG, not pushed from the from the One-HAG. So I think that's the way you can actually give leadership teams the view that there's something that they can actually aspire to, something they can work to quarter on quarter, month on month, week on week, day on day. But it's also realistic. It's something that they want, and people tend to get what they want.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that want is key. 3-HAG equals want. And, getting a team who is unconfident in their strategy, though they want to be confident in their strategy, they want to be really clear in their strategy, really simplify their strategy. That want and the wanting gutting out the 3-HAG is such an enabler of not just the CEO only, but the CEO plus leadership team to get there. Do you have any examples where a team completely shifted after getting, I'm going to say gutting out their 3-HAG? We've all kicked off and we all kick off. And in the first day, we're gutting out our 3-HAG with a brand new team. Do you have any examples where a team's gutted it out, in that first day? And then, thinking about the next day, aligning execution, because that's what happens. We get the execution plan done, our 1-HAG, our Q-HAG for that time. And then thinking about, what comes after that, because we know that first day is such a big day. We're doing, we're laying the foundation, we're putting the cohesiveness in place, we're getting the B-HAG in place, their core purpose, all those pieces. And then the afternoon is dedicated to gutting out the 3-HAG. What's an example of where a team completely shifted from sometimes really reluctant to start the day to ending the day going, wow, when are you coming back?
Yeah, I've seen it go both ways. I've seen people pull back from where they originally set their 3-HAG, and I've also seen people push further from where they originally set their 3-HAG. So I've been working with a client for about 7 months now, and when we gutted out the 3-HAG, now they set themselves a 3-year target of $120 million. And on day 2, when we started connecting all the numbers together over the year and over the first quarter, they realized that it just wasn't realistic. It wasn't achievable within the 3-year time frame. So they pulled it back. I think they pulled it back to about 85. But I've also seen the opposite happen where leadership teams, once they've started mapping out their 1 year, they realized they were pretty much over halfway towards their 3-HAG. So we went back and then we reset the 3-HAG, just pushing further out. So it can go both ways. But that's the beauty of this process, because we're actually joining all the numbers together, widgets right the way through to cash in bank. They can take a view on whether it's realistic and whether everything connects. Whereas if you're just putting numbers out there, a 5-year super wild ass guess, then there's no way of actually bringing that through to anything real. And a 3-HAG has to be real. And doing it like that means you can make it real.
So, when we talk about, gutting it out, it's not perfect, but we've moved the dial, right? So the team's excited about moving that dial. Let's talk a little bit more about leadership team alignment, because all of us have, worked with companies, gutted out 3-HAGs, even joined that first afternoon. We're new to that team. What's the go-to strategy to help the team get on the same page that day? Because we know they're not. Even when we kick off, they're not on the same page. And everyone's not especially bought in, right? And everyone might not be bought into the process. There could be, usually absolutely the CEO's gung-ho. Normally about majority of the leadership team's gung-ho, but there's not, there are times where we've kicked off and they're not everyone bought in. Can you share an experience and what you've done to get the team lined up through that process?
Yeah, for me, I guess what comes to mind is people will typically attend the planning day with a fair degree of confidence about what's going on in their function. And being able to set their own goals and stuff. So for us to get that alignment in the team, we've got to change, I guess, the focus of the individual focusing on their own team result to the broader team result. And it's really that shift in behaviour. And we can refer to things like Pat Lencioni's, focus on combined team results as opposed to your own function results as part of that. Some of the tricks we can do as coaches is obviously try to have the team members work together in groups that they don't typically work together with. So you might have someone from marketing actually dealing with someone in finance, for example, or those sorts of things, to try to get that sense or appreciation of what those other functions have as important elements of how they run. So then we broaden the ability of the team members in that senior leadership team level to have a greater appreciation of how the whole team comes together, which then helps with those discussions around things like KFFM, because there's a greater understanding of what's lying behind those functions and what will help or hurt those metrics that we're trying to achieve. So for me, it all goes hand in hand with some of the other things that we're doing. KFFM is that great thing to sort of try to link it in together, but also try to get the groups working together in a dynamic where they get to see something beyond their own role and then start to set goals as a whole team as opposed to just for their own function.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that, because the key function flow map, when we do it right off in the beginning of the day, we get that view, help the leaders get that view that they own one of the functions that are key to moving the money throughout the organization. And that's our first, sort of view in to looking at where is the alignment. Knowing in the afternoon we're going to line up strategy. What's some of your experience with it?
For me, it's the discussion that is often really, really insightful. It's like I'll often, when we're going through the 3-HAG numbers or the targets or whatever, I'll often just take a step back and let the leadership team start drilling down and questioning each other and asking, if I have to do that, can you do that? Which is what I need you to do. And this is often where the CEO breathes a sigh of relief, because up until now he's been the one that's been pushing them, and he's been the one that's trying to get commitment from the leadership team, and because he's doing it individually, it just doesn't come through. They haven't had the chance to talk this through as a team. And you often see the CEO go, this is brilliant. I love this. This is great. This is what we need. This is what we need. Because he's never had that leadership team discussion at that sort of level before. And often they just don't talk through these things. They just don't have the discussion. It's like, okay, here are last year's numbers. Let's push it forward by 6%. And that's next year's numbers, and as we know, that isn't the way to do it.
Yeah, and I think the exciting thing when I think about leadership team alignment on that first day when we kick off is thinking about it's the first time that we're going to ask the 5 questions for the 3-year highly achievable goal. We're going to ask, the date, the year ending date, 3 years out.
That's the easy bit.
Yep. Then we're going to ask, what do you want your gross revenue to be that 3rd year out? And what do you want your cash in the bank to be? And we're going to ask each and every leader for an answer, right? That right there, we learned so much from that point in time, but everybody gets a say on what they want it to be. And I know we've all had really fun experiences gutting this out with teams, because they haven't necessarily had a chance to, they've talked maybe in amongst themselves, but no one's had a chance to, you get to say what you think, what your want is, and line it up with everyone else's. And then from there, as we're going to ask what things, what widgets, how many of those in that particular year will make that gross revenue true, as well as, the cash in the bank. And everybody gets a say again, right? Thinking about lining up the leadership team. And, it's some of those discussions that we have as coaches that we're guiding, because we're looking for an outcome for a number. Right? For the gross revenue, for the cash in the bank on the last day of that year, for how many of the widgets, the things that must be delivered in order to make those numbers true. Then we're going to ask everyone for a 3-HAG. We're going to ask everyone to write down a statement that aligns with, we'd already gutted out our big, hairy, audacious goal, our 10 to 30 year goal. Now we're going to ask everyone to write down that statement on what they think they want to be 3 years from now. I love that piece, because everyone comes from, different functional views, different areas. They never thought they'd be asked that or be able to contribute that on that day. And then my favorite part, once we get that down, is those 3 to 5 key capabilities. On the side conversations up to that point that day, throughout that day, there's so many discussions around the key capabilities that must be true, right? The key, what are those 3 to 5 key capabilities that must be in place in order to make the gross revenue true, the cash in the bank, the widgets delivering on those, whatever those things are, the 3-HAG statement. But we get to brainstorm what those are together. And that alignment, even that brainstorming, we're coming in the end of that first day is amazing. We know that. It drives the alignment we're looking for. And then we're closing it out with, what does everyone think we should be known for? What do you want to be known for 3 years from now, in that third year, once you deliver on everything we just talked about? And for me, when we get that alignment, everyone, the energy, we've all had that energy when we walk out of day one of a kickoff. It's the first time ever, that team has seen into the future, has agreed on the future, and they're so excited for the next day, right? Because day 2 is about building our execution plan, right? For our 1 year, our execution plan for our quarterly. What's some of the experience you've had when we're thinking about execution? We've kicked off, right? We have our 10 to 30 year goal. We now have our 3-HAG. We have a really good experience with the team. The team comes in the next day. What's it like the next day? In the morning, you're gonna, plan out their annual plan with them. Jed, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, well, it's very much a change of speed from day 1 to day 2. Day 1's all about big picture. It's about exciting things. It's about blue skies. It's about strategy. And they normally finish day 1, so when I'm blown away. Now, that's certainly been my experience. And when we get into day 2, that's where the rubber hits the road. We're now having to sort of push down into the details of, where do we want to get to within the first year and the first quarter, and what do we need to do to get there and start moving the company forwards towards meeting your 3-HAG. So the day 2 dynamic is often very, very different. But it's also very satisfying because they're actually coming together as a team to commit to things that they've never been able to commit to before. As a team.
And we know every team that we work with has an annual plan. They have a 12-month budget. They do. But now it's in the context. We're asking them to do it in the context of where they're going to their 3-HAG, right? How about you, Ian? What's some of your experience with day 2?
You quite often I've found teams will come in on that day 2 in the morning and they would have slept on something from something that's
so powerful
the day before. And it's really hard to go, I guess, from that 30,000 feet view of that to then drop into that 100 feet execution phase without potentially reorientating the group and covering off some of that. You don't want to linger there because I think the ultimate question or holdback for all of the teams when they're doing strategy is they go, but how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
And so that's why day 2 is so critical to sort of have it as that space go, well, that's what today's all about. But, day 2 is like mapping out how we're going to get there. And we might be able to do everything all at once.
No.
But if we can prioritize, I guess, those key elements that line up with that bigger picture that we spoke about yesterday, and we've got the benchmarks or the 3-HAGs in place to help calibrate the goals that we're going to set for the year ahead and the quarter ahead, then that's where the magic comes in. And as you guys know, I mean, I love the execution piece. I talk about that regularly. I've written some material on that as well. And you really do see the energy increase in the team.
Yes.
When they get an inkling that they can have a power to work out how they're going to do something.
Yeah. And I love that because it gives going from, day 1 is the future and day 2 is how we're going to do it, who's going to own it, and how we're going to measure success. It's pretty phenomenal. We know when we close out that day, though, that's just the plan, right? 1% of the time spent on plan. And the 99% is our rhythm, our discipline, our behavior. What are routines or habits that make the biggest difference in this phase, this foundation growth phase, and how do you as coaches help make them stick?
Yeah, I think something I've been spending a lot of time on recently, and I've actually got a book coming on this in the next couple of months, is really doubling down very, very early on making sure that the meetings are running smoothly. Because as coaches, we don't want to, and we can't be there in their daily huddles,
Right.
their weekly meetings, and
Yeah.
often their monthly meetings. That's not really where our time is best spent. But if you don't show them how to run really, really good meetings, then they just fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
And they say they meet every month, every week, every day, but they're not being effective with those
Right.
sessions.
Right.
So I double right down in the first quarter, showing the teams that I work with how to run great meetings. And they've got videos, they've got backup information, they've got agendas, and they've got all the templates that they need in Metronome, just so that I can monitor how things are going. And on my one-on-ones with CEOs, which I tend to run every 2 weeks, that's a question in my one-on-one. How are your daily, weekly, monthly meetings running?
Yeah.
Because I want to have that check-in as often as possible so I can identify when they're not running properly. Because that's really what drives progress towards the targets and the priorities. If they're not regularly reviewing them as teams and not regularly having the conversations around, are we on track? If we're not on track, what do we got to do to get back on track? If we're not regularly having those discussions, then you just never get there. You don't hit the targets and you don't complete your priorities.
Yeah. Yeah. How about yourself, Ian? What's your sort of go-to thinking about we've got that we're there to create team habits to execute the great plan that we just put together with them. What are some of your go-to team habits that are must do for you?
Well, I think maybe going back to one of the earlier questions we covered, which is what was the appeal of me to Metronomics, I guess, as a system, and it was the platform.
Yeah.
And I think so the key element of how do we get that great traction, how do we get the alignment once we've created the plan, is get the team using the platform as quickly as possible, even if it's a little bit messy at the beginning. But obviously, to Jed's point, the meetings being set up in the system and making sure the team is sticking to the meetings and populating the meetings ahead of time as a component of that overall usage of platform is the biggest way we can stick the teams to the plan. And the more that we can get them to refer to their priorities on a regular basis, have those meetings where they have the priorities and metrics sticking out as something that they always come back to, that will help that alignment piece probably more than anything.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, from my own coaching practice, when we're leaving that meeting, my strong recommendation, and it's not even a recommendation, it's a must do, is all the priorities and metrics that we created in that 2-day kickoff go into Metronome software. That's number one. And I've actually been lately in my kickoffs spending that last hour or so of the day making sure that it's in the platform before they leave that day, and that their huddles are scheduled. So that 15-minute everyday connect huddles scheduled with the leadership team. We've talked through the standing agenda, and I know they're ready for it. And we also make sure the weekly meeting is locked in tight, and so that they can prep for the meeting, they can do all that. That meeting must be effective, right? As you talked about, I liked what you're thinking about, and we know. I mean, the three of us know. All Metronomics coaches know the teams that log into the platform and make it a team habit every day are growing 3 times faster than their peers. We know that. It sounds so simple, but it really is that simple, and it's a decision of the CEO and the leadership team that I'm trying to get alignment on before they leave that day, that they will try it and they'll go hard for 30 days. And then we might have to tweak it a little bit and they're going to go again. But every team that works with me absolutely huddles every day, or I might not come back. It's that.
And I'm sure you don't.
It's that important. With that, let's just wrap up this discussion. This has been an amazing discussion. Thank you both. On the foundation growth phase. So if you're an organization and you're thinking about what phase am I in, there's some simple questions to answer. The first one is, how is your cash system working? Are you losing sleep over cash, or you're feeling pretty good? Okay, that's one question. If you're feeling pretty good, check the box. Okay. If you're losing sleep over cash, you're absolutely in the foundation growth phase and you're going to focus on cash right now. With that, that's just a normal need that we would have to do. The second question is the execution system working without you? So you as the leader, is it working without you? If that question is yes, congratulations, that's fantastic. We're going to go to the next question. If it's no, just realize that that is piece of why you're feeling the time crunch and the extra effort and all the pieces. And we really need to understand where we're going in order to have the team actually drive it and get you out of there. The third question is, do you have a 100% cohesive A-player leadership team? That's a yes or no. If you hesitated for 1 second when I asked that, that's a no. And you must go review your team. And there's lots out there. Must go review your team, figure out who's who, I'm sure you know, and you need to build a plan to take action in order for you to continue moving forward, but getting the right people in the right seats, doing the right things. The last question is, do you have a clearly mapped and concise strategy that your whole team can see? That's, again, a yes or no. And, quite frankly, a lot of people say no to that question. We just need a simple and clear way to write down our strategy. And the Three-HAG Way is a book, if you haven't read it or found it, it's a book that will give you a great paint by numbers. We also have coaches that are experts in creating confidence in your strategy. I want to thank Jed for being here today. I want to thank Ian for being here today. And, the best news is that we're all together in one room talking about the foundation growth phase that we find a lot of companies in this phase. So if you ended up saying, yes, I'm in the foundation growth phase, look at which lever that you don't have in place and just take a moment and think about what are the next steps for the next 90 days. If you're looking for more information, we have in-person events happening as well as lots of web classes happening twice a month. Please reach out. Thank you again for being here. Thanks both of you for being here. We'll call that a wrap for today.
Tip Top is brought to you by Metronomics.
To find out more about Metronomics and how this proven 20-year-old system will save you time and money as you grow up your business,
Visit metronomics.com. That is metronomics.com.
share your thoughts on today's episode in the comments and suggest topics you'd love us to explore the next time.
Also search for Metronomics in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else that great podcasts are found.